Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm really happy that you're joining us for this very special LinkedIn Live. We're going to go deep into corporate board leadership and how you can really position yourself. What are the steps that are proven? And we've got the proof point here in this conversation today. I'm Julie Castro-Abrams. I'm the CEO of How Women Lead. This is a nonprofit organization. It's focused on us coming together and collectively breaking glass ceilings and making change happen. And what I really want to say to you is lean in and listen to how this might inform your path. There's a path for you. I've joined today by someone I admire so deeply, Kimberley Goode. She's Chief Communications and Social Impact Officer at BMO Financial Group, and she is a new board director at Providence Health Plan. Kimberly's very active in our community. She really shows up. She's hosted a bunch of people at a Bulls game we were just talking about, very much leading in making sure that you all know about this, that we have gotten rid of any of the mystery and we've got women on a path. So thank you, Kimberley, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. And Julie, all of that love goes right back at you because I find you to be really the catalyst for so much that has shaped both my career and so many others. So it's great to be in conversation with you.
Thank you for that. Well, I think part of it is because we commit to a credo of how we want to be together. And I'm going to share that with everyone now. And I actually want you to lean into possibility. What if the culture was better for us? What if we didn't have some of these negative things that have held us back? So take a deep breath, shake it out. And this is our invitation to you. We invite you to be fierce advocates for each other. Imagine what that would be like, someone fiercely advocating for you. Say yes to helping and connecting each other. You know, that deal making, it's not indelicate. We got to do it. And we want you to kind of shed some of that old story, that culture that women don't talk about certain things. I want you to talk about it. And speaking of that, our voices aren't being heard culturally, literally. You can look in who's getting quoted in financial and business news. It's not women. We're really missing in that space because our voice isn't being heard. So reinforce her voice when she speaks up. And four, and this is probably the most important, and you might need a little bit of it. Well, Kimberly's our example today. We need you to be unabashedly visible so that other women can aspire to be more like you. And Kimberly, I'm just so honored that you agreed to come here today and really share your journey because you are the one we all have been waiting for to give us the example. No, really, my daughter needs to see you. And when she sees you in this role, she changes what's possible for her. So thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you. And you know that I love the creed. And that last point about being unabashedly visible is tough because sometimes we don't want to be out in front for us. And I think your point about we don't do it for us. This isn't for Kimberly. This is really for others out there that can be inspired. And it reminds me, just to go off script for a moment, of the very first role model I had in my career. It was a woman named Rita Wilson. She was in the corner office at Allstate. And when I, as a young 21-year-old recent graduate, saw her in the corner office, I automatically knew the career path that I wanted, and I knew it was possible. So I know firsthand the importance of having role models, and that's something that all of us can aspire to be for others.
That's beautiful. So everybody give me a virtual Girl Scouts pledge to being that way with each other. And it's pretty magical. So Kimberly, thank you for always modeling that for me and for everybody around you. Can you walk us through the journey? When did you first get the idea of, serving on a board? And what is your executive background that is lending itself obviously to great value?
So I would say that it was pretty deep in my career before I began to think about what it would like to be on the other side of the table. So as a corporate executive, I've had the opportunity over the last couple of decades to be in C-suite roles, and that's given me access to board operations from the management side. So I had a lot of understanding of what it meant, whether I was working, at top brands like Kellogg Company or American Express, Prudential Financial, and others. I got to see what it was like to prepare for the board, to answer questions for the board. And that was important really as a first step in preparing for the journey. And then later, as I began to work more closely with CEOs and with board members, I began to envision the possibility that I could be on the other side. And I think all of that work experience is key to helping prepare you for the board. And so my journey started in corporate communications, really working my way up the ranks. And then I took on broader responsibilities for government relations and began to develop a bit of an expertise in managing stakeholders, helping organizations to show up for a broad range of stakeholders, how to guard, manage, and improve reputation. And what I learned in the last, most recent years is that those things are of increasing importance to boards.
Yeah.
Because as you can imagine, reputation can make an organization and it can break an organization. So have folks to advocate for that is really key.
I want to underscore a few things that you talked about. And these are action steps for anybody here, or value that you don't even know you have. If you have an opportunity or can advocate for an opportunity to present to the board meeting or to prepare things for the board meeting, you'll start to really build your comfort level and understanding, which I think is often important for women, because we generally don't say boastfully we can do things we haven't even toe dipped in. So it's a great example. And Kimberly just mentioned sort of crisis communications. I also want you to think about this in a couple other ways. Crisis communication can, lots of things can happen. We were just talking about in banking, like watching out for fraud, elder abuse. There's all kinds of things that we all need to pay attention to and being on top of it. The other thing is, certain kinds of boards, there's activist investors. Who's the person who's going to be managing some of the external relationships with those investors and making sure that the activist investors don't activate too much? It's all good. It's friendly and it's a good partnership. And I would say a communications person like Kimberly is a great kind of person to have by your side to really and build those skills to be able to make sure it all smooths out and it doesn't become problematic. So thank you for that. So you were positioned well. You've worked your buns off and gotten to great roles in your career. But did you do anything special to prepare to get on the board? Take classes or do anything in particular?
Yes. So I had the opportunity, as I mentioned, to learn a lot by observation. So that was important. But you also get a lot of really beneficial information through board readiness programs. And I had an opportunity to participate in a couple of those, one of which is a program offered by How Women Lead. And that's a great way to not only learn the ins and outs of board service, but to hear about and learn from the experiences of others who've walked in those paths. So I can't emphasize enough, participating in a board readiness program is really critical. It helps to grow your vocabulary so you understand the watchouts. It helps you understand committee structures, the roles. It helps you understand board culture and what you need to look for in a board assignment that's different from what you look for in your next career opportunity. So I really recommend board readiness trainings as a great way. And then the other thing is just getting to know other board members and having a sense of inquiry to understand how their journey was.
Well, and I think one of the things I love watching is, the relationships that continue beyond a course like that, where you really ask someone to hold you accountable, or you ask them to problem solve or review your materials, or like when you're about to go do a board, like an interview for a board. Did you call in anyone when you were interviewing, Kimberly, to give you advice and support?
Absolutely. So, do I mention names? But I was very excited to have former people that I reported to who were willing to take a look at both board bio as well as to kind of give me questions that I should be prepared to answer, things to look out. And I would emphasize that it's a two-way street. So this is not just a board interviewing you, but you are interviewing the search firm or the governance committee, because you want to make sure there's a good fit. Because that's really, really critical in board placement, and particularly your first board.
What were your measures that you were looking for when you were interviewing?
So I think the two things that matter most to me is there a mission fit? I really wanted to, time is a scarcity. So I am a sitting executive with a very demanding job. I have a family. So if I'm going to make another commitment, it needed to be something that was very mission aligned. And that I wanted to know that I could add value, that I could really bring a perspective that would be appreciated and would help the organization. So those were the two criteria most important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you are, healthcare is nothing to sneeze at. That's a highly regulated industry. So you have to know what you're up for in terms of that. You used to work at Blue Shield. So was there anything else that you felt like helped you know what you were getting yourself into?
So, I mean, one, I definitely have the passion for healthcare in general and health equity in particular. So, Providence is an organization that is very committed to ensuring everyone gets healthcare with dignity. So, that was the mission fit. I know a lot of the colleagues who are on the board as well as in management. So, there was a familiarity. And I would think that emphasizes the piece that, like with anything else, relationships matter. And so, the more you build your network, the more that you're able to let people know who you are and what you're interested in and what you can do, the more the matches can come together a bit easier.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. So you used your network to help you sort of navigate in the board process. How else have you used your network and to get your first board seat?
So, again, those relationships matter so key. So the colleague that recommended me for this board, we had worked together in healthcare. So they knew what my capabilities and skill sets were. They knew where my passion was. I appreciated their leadership style and commitment to the work. And so that made it really easy to be recommended to the search firm for consideration. I would say that in board placement, referrals are really, really key. And so much of why we haven't seen as much diversity in board placement is because the pond of referral was very limited to certain groups of people. And so as we get more women on boards, as we get more women of color on boards, more people of color on boards, that will extend the referral pool in ways that can help all organizations.
Yeah. You are clearly such a great, well, one performer that people would recommend you, but relationship builder. This is not a transaction. It sounds to me like these are long-term relationships that people know that you continue to show up and add value. Do you have any things that you do in particular to make sure you continue to manage those relationships well?
Well, one, I stay visible. So back to your unabashedly visible, I think having a social media presence, people watch and read what you say and do and how you show up to make sure that what you say and what you do matches. I participate in things like How Women Lead so that I'm surrounded by women who are wanting the same things to make a difference in the boardroom, to make a difference in the C-suite, to make a difference in investing. So I think staying active and carving out time to make sure that you are going to the Bulls game and getting with 20 women to just sort of figure out how we can support one another, or you're showing up for board readiness, or you're attending board week, doing those things so that extends your network, but also puts you in a position to help others.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making the commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step. I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. I just want to pause here and ask everybody who's listening to really think about what Kimberley just said and how you do it. So Kimberley does so much. I just want to point that out. She chairs galas. She is on nonprofit boards. She is writing articles and visible. She invites people to intimate and bigger events. She does it through work, but you also do it personally. And all of that, I want you all to think about how are you crafting that for yourself? People will contact me sometimes and say, I'd like to go on a board. And they think they're going to knock on the door of their house and say, hey, your reputation precedes you. And it doesn't really work that way. You have to be in someone's face and consistently. You have to keep being visible. And so your leadership role with How Women Lead, for example, hosting things and showing up, and that precious commitment of your time is really extraordinarily important in the board's process.
Yeah, and I'll build on that. So I think you're referring to me being the corporate chair for the San Francisco General Hospital
That was it.
Foundation.
I
Kayla.
just remembered that you did something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's a wonderful organization and a wonderful event that makes sure that in the San Francisco area, we are providing quality healthcare to everyone in need. And I would build on that to say, your nonprofit board service is a critical skill builder, relationship builder experience.
Yeah.
So long before I had the opportunity to be on my first corporate board, I served on really well organized, well managed nonprofit boards, which also helps build your skill and your experience to prepare you for corporate board seats.
Yeah. Excellent. So I hope all of you are starting, maybe you're already doing it and you just need to know you already have the foundation for it. If not, I would really encourage you to start to map that out as part of your own plan. You're doing this though, on top of doing a day job that's significant. And I know I see you all over the country. How do you balance all these responsibilities with your other commitments? Like, what is the best advice you can give us?
I think the best thing I would say is be very thoughtful about when you decide that you want to try and be on a corporate board or be on a corporate board, because it will take prioritization. So with my career and other obligations, I've had to prioritize or deprioritize some nonprofit service because I've done that for a long time in lots of ways. So sometimes you have to come off some things in order to add things to your plate. From a board service perspective, you have to understand if you're a current executive, you are doing this on your personal time, not on your employer's time. So you've got to be able to build in the time for meetings, for preparing to read all the material that you need to read. And there is a lot of material. Since there aren't a lot of meetings, you go deep. So really, it's about making sure that you fit into your life from a balance perspective by saying no to some things that you maybe did do.
That's still hard to do.
And you have to view it as the stage of your life. I mean, so I think everything is a season. And so when you get to the season where you're ready to add value at the corporate board level, that's a unique spot for you that you need to step into and allow some of the emerging leaders to take your seat on nonprofit boards so that they can get ready to then follow you into corporate board seats.
Yeah. There it is. You'll be recommending them in a couple years. Okay, but you're both the board you went on and your current day job are highly regulated. Did you have to get permission? How did you navigate any conflicts of interest?
Yeah,
Don't assume everybody you can't or you can. You got to ask, right?
Yeah, you absolutely have to ask. If you're a sitting executive, really in the industry, you need to check with your employer about any rules or guidelines that they have. I certainly had to do that. I had to be pre-cleared. I had to go through both conflicts of interest on both my employer side as well as governing bodies for the states in which the board that I'm going on operates in. So there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of approvals, and you want to do that early in the consideration period, because if there's any concern or feedback, you don't want to get all the way to the end of the journey where you've said yes, then you're starting the approval process and something comes up. So mention to your employer if that's something that you're interested in, and help them see the value in being supportive as long as you clear, there obviously is no sector competition and that sort of thing. So healthcare is not banking, there's a difference, but it is helpful because you learn in the board journey as much as you give. So my employer will benefit from what I learn in this role. That'll help me be a better executive, a better leader. So there's value in supporting your employees to do that, but you do need to make sure you get cleared in advance. Go through that process.
Well, there's data that proves what you just said is absolutely the case. So if you're in conversations with your employer, there, to be able to say what Kimberley just said, which is I'll add more value because I'll have a different worldview and new skills, new connections, new perspectives. So it can add a great deal, but it's not a slam dunk at every company. And sometimes you're conflicted out. So really good to ask. So what are the things that you highlighted? You have to talk about yourself. Part of what you do in the corporate board readiness classes, for example, is you are coming up with your value proposition in the words that are relevant for the boardroom. It's actually a different way of positioning yourself. So when you think about what are the keywords that you or what they're looking for you to do for them, what do you think are the biggest highlights that are the reasons why they wanted you to go on this?
Sure. So I do think I bring a different perspective, and one that is very tuned in on stakeholder management. So helping them to see how the organization is perceived by lots of different stakeholders and what you need to do, what management needs to do to make sure that they govern that accordingly. Reputation management and how to quickly, adapt as issues emerge. You can imagine in healthcare, lots of things come up. Lots of things have been in the news. And so helping organizations navigate those sensitive places. One of the important distinctions is when you're on the board, you're not management. So you're not there to solve those problems. You're there to help advise, ask the right questions, and help management feel very supported. And in some cases, you may share things that management hadn't considered to really help them manage the business in a way that's successful. So board members, our goal is to ask the right questions, bring some insights, and really be a support to management as they handle the day-to-day.
Fantastic. I hope everybody's listening to think, is that something I could share that I can show up in stakeholder management, or what is the equivalency for you? And if you aren't sure, I think, well, one, you can always take one of the classes that we offer or others offer, but also talking to other directors or seeing, I even look up the bios that describe each person that's serving on a board that you might find interesting. And you'll see those keywords about how they position themselves. What value are they bringing to the boardroom? And I'll tell you, the boardroom dynamics, it's very dynamic because right now today with AI, everything's shifting. There's always something that feels like it's on the cutting edge, which I think is super fun. I don't know about you, Kimberly, but I find that to be a lot of, growth and joy in the growing.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the world keeps changing around us, and it takes the diverse perspectives at the table to make sure that we haven't missed something. And so whether it's in how AI is implemented in a way that doesn't recreate biases that exist in, everyday life. So there's lots of perspective that we can bring to every table. And I do think that's energizing.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a blast. I love learning and growing. So did you have any challenges on this journey? Anything that you felt like you needed to overcome?
I think the only challenge was really figuring out the right time.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of people who were urging me to, you got to get on a board. You're right for a board. You're ready for a board. And I had to tell myself, you'll know when it's right. And be patient in the journey. Doesn't mean you have to wait as long as I did, but it does mean that it needs to be right. For me, having 3 kids and everything, I wanted to make sure I had one less thing on my plate before I took on another. So find the time that's right for you. And the time leading up to that, that's your prep time. That helps you build the right relationships and get the right skill set so that when the time is right, you're ready and you'll easily connect.
Okay, did everyone listening sort of take note? In the meantime, if it's not quite the right time for you, there's plenty you can do. And part of it is, hey, invite people, groups of women or others out to dinner or to a show. Go put yourself out there with a nonprofit and be visible and really start to build out your story about what value you bring. I don't know, Kimberly, did you write articles about stakeholder relations or value or things like that? Do you have a body of work that you made sure that was out there in the world, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, I do a lot of speaking at conferences. And
I know. I see you everywhere.
I won't do a lot of necessarily writing of articles, but certainly do share a lot of that perspective. And I want to reemphasize the point you said about really connecting with people. Connecting with people who are on boards is so critical because they are the first people that people will go to when they're looking for additional board members. Mm-hmm. So they will say, we're looking for a board for this organization or this type of company. Who do you know? Mm-hmm. And you want to be one of the people that board member says, well, I know so-and-so. So really invest in that.
A lot of people think, okay, I'm in med tech, so I can go on a med tech board. You're in banking today, but you're now on a health plan board. Can you talk about how to think about what kind of board might be right for you, and how not to limit yourself, or where you should put your boundaries.
Yeah. So again, I think to your point about what's exciting and new and different, the skill sets that you learn are transferable across industry. I've proven that in my career, as so many others have. And again, if you're a sitting executive, you absolutely don't want a board that's in your same sector. So from that perspective, recognizing that the skills that you bring are transferable across industry. So pick one that isn't in conflict if you're in a sitting role today, and pick something that you got passion about, whether it's passion to learn because it's new, different, and exciting, or passion to build on something that already matters a lot to you.
Okay, everybody. Now, this is my final question for you. I think, Kimberly, in 2010, there's about 10-12% women on public company boards. Today, it's over 30%, depending on what group you're looking at. We made a massive shift. Now that women are in the room, what is the responsibility of all the women who are on boards?
So first, I'm going to congratulate and thank you for all that you and How Women Lead did to really make this incredible push to get women on boards, advocating, legislating, finding ways to make this happen, to move the needle was critical. I also want to just shout out the On Board movie that is out there. And if you haven't seen it, find somebody that's viewing it. It's an incredible film that was put together to really highlight the journey of a number of Black women getting on boards, from the very first Black woman corporate director to amazing women today. Julie, I know you were featured in there as one of the participants and supporters. So On Board, the film, check it out. And then I would just end by saying that as within our career, it is so important that we all make way for others. And so, my responsibility, part of why I'm here, share my story, use my platforms to share the stories of others, and do the work to be prepared, help people understand what that takes. And then the most important thing I can do is be a really good board member so that I get the respect and the influence to help open the door for others.
Well, okay. I wanted to two little quick things. Anita Sands, one of the, very highly visible public directors, been in that space for a very long time. I'll never forget one day she said, the day we have mediocre women on boards is the day we know we will have arrived. So there you go. That's one data point. Another is, I'll tell you, every time we do a board placement, I inevitably about 6 to 9 months later, I'll get the call from the chair or whoever was my contact and say, this person has been so extremely valuable. If we could just have a board full of people like this person, it would transform everything. And part of me just wants to say, yeah, no. I mean, yeah, she's special, but I got, another 100 of them, women that have, could have done an equally beautiful job. And so I want you all to know you are needed. You're enough. You may need to figure out the right kind of board where you fit or when it's right for you. But my constant experience is Kimberly is going to be the best thing that ever happened to that board. And because she's disciplined and responsible and scaffolded her career and has had a breadth of experience, and it upgames everybody else. I think that's the big win of this big transformation in governance and the percentage of, who's on those boards. It's because you disrupt groupthink. And everybody else, the people who are on the board before, let's just probably say white guys, probably, they prepare differently when 3 people that are other are in the room. So when Kimberly shows up on that board, people can be like, I want to perform better so that I can participate in the conversations like Kimberly does, because she's going to do her homework. So with that, Kimberly, do you have any final tips or words of wisdom for people?
I would just say we need women. We need people of color at every table. And some of you who are listening will feel the tug and reach out. We're happy to be a help and do what you can to help others. So let's live the creed.
Yeah, it makes us all better. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kimberly, for sharing and the gift of your time. I know this is precious. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. I'll see you in the boardroom.